Okay, welcome everybody. Hello, hello, hello. Okay, so I'm sure everybody recognizes me in some way, shape, or form, and I'm just gonna get right into it. No intro, no, this is who I am, blah, 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 none of that crap. We're just gonna get right into it, and I want to help you guys immediately. So, the first thing that I want everyone here to do is to ask yourselves a question, and I want this to be a running theme as we kind of go through this call. And that question is, why are you here? Okay. Why are you actually here? Now, I don't have a definitive answer, but I'm going to take a stab at it. Okay. There's a good chance that you're here because perhaps we talked in the DMs. Perhaps you've seen some of my content. Perhaps something that I said at one point resonated with you where you actually clicked on an appointment, right? There's a whole bunch of reasons why you might be here. Whatever that reason is, the whole point of this call is to be able to enable you to do the same thing with other people for whatever your product is, whatever your service is, whatever your newsletter might be, whatever call that you want to, set an appointment for. Whatever got you here, the basis of today is to teach you how to do the exact same things for the folks that you're trying to attract to your business or your service. Okay? And the way that we do that, there's really three ways, okay, that you attract people to your business, that you're going to grow your business. And I'm going to only go over one today. That's my tease, right? Obviously, I'm going to be offering you my product and my service at some point, but I promise you this is like 95% good shit, 5% sales, okay? Um, but the three main elements are this, right? The first one is the profile, and that's specifically what we're going to be going over today. And this is in regards to social media, okay? The second one is content. You obviously want to create content that resonates, that speaks to who you are, what you do, who you help, right? And then the last one is engagement. And I'm going to touch upon those two a little bit after I go through the profile optimization. But the main purpose of this call is to get you guys off on the right footing, which is your profile, specifically your LinkedIn profile. If people don't understand who you are, what you do, how you help them in the first 4 or 5 seconds, you're at a tremendous disadvantage against most other people. So I'm going to get right into it. If you guys have questions, I mean, you could probably put it into the chat as we go, but I'm certainly going to stop for a Q&A after this and after I go through my little spiel. And then, we'll take questions and we'll talk for as long as need be. So if everybody's ready, I'm going to share my screen and I'm going to talk about exactly what goes into having a very good profile on LinkedIn. All right, here we go. Okay. Not that I'm arrogant, but I'm going to be using my own profile as an example. And don't worry, I have other profiles that I'm going to point to also. So there are really 5 elements that I want to go into today, okay, on your LinkedIn profile that are extremely important. All right. And we're going to go into the most important one right now. That's your banner. Your banner is actually viewed, and in internet time, I've been doing this stuff since 2007. I own a whole bunch of websites, so I'm pretty familiar with the internet world. 7 to 8 seconds is a very long time. I use that number because that's the amount of time people typically look at your banner. That's like an eternity on the internet. So many of you on this call may have like a picture of trees or something, or like a skyscraper or something like that. And there's nothing wrong with that. But I don't know what you do, right? I don't know who you are, what you stand for, the kind of outcomes that you can help people achieve, right? And so the banner is a lot more important than you think. And I'll go over those elements in my banner, right? Is it perfect? No. But it's kind of hard for you not to know what I do based on what you see in this profile on this banner. So the very first thing you see, it's very small. The right attention is what you need. Clearly, one of the outcomes I'm trying to help people get is attention. But the right attention is what I really want you guys to get. I don't give a shit if you have 100,000 followers and are getting a million impressions. If you're not getting business, it does not matter. There are people on this platform that have many, many followers and very few business, relationships or very few business, period. So I want to make sure that whether you're at 100 followers or 10,000 followers, that it's the right ones and you're attracting the right people and you're talking to the right people. And again, that starts from this banner. Then what you want to do is talk about what you do, right? Who you help. You can't get it all into the banner, but you can get most of it, right? So mine's a bit more general. So I'm not necessarily saying, helping high net worth individuals get their brands built. But I do say it down here, and I'll get to that in a minute. So basically, get the brand built, lead the conversation, grow your business. So here's the function, what I do, the results, growing your business, right? And just a little bit of a benefit here, you'll lead the conversation. Then a call to action. Check out my free webinar, right? That's your CTA. If you have all of those elements in a banner, then you are ahead of 99% of people on this platform. All right. So who are you? What do you do? What outcome can you provide? And if you can fit in a CTA, then that's wonderful. Okay. My recommendation for a banner is let a professional handle it. I don't know how good AI is these days as far as being able to create like a LinkedIn banner, but obviously there are people who are wizards with this stuff. Um, I got mine done by a professional. It was like 500 bucks. If you're in my community, it's 150 bucks. Boom, there's sales number one for my community. Okay, that's my pitch. But anyway, so I would probably seek someone out at a professional level. I like to see, a personal looking banner. So a photo of you would be good. Speaking of photos, your photo here, your just uploaded regular profile photo, I recommend that you got a little bit of a smile. All right. Smiles are inviting. I'm not telling you what to do here, but I am saying like a mugshot, it's not an inviting thing. It's not as inviting. I have a little bit of a smirk. Maybe it's a little wise assy. I don't know, but at least it's a smile. And in the banner, I definitely have like a medium smile going here. So you do want to be inviting to whatever users are coming across this profile. So that's that whole top section. And I spent like a few minutes on it because it's important. Then you got your tagline. Okay. Your tagline is basically an extension of your banner, but probably not the exact same thing, right? So you can notice in my banner, it's get your brand built, grow your business, all that. I can't fit that into a tagline. So how do I encompass all of that into basically one line, if possible? And by the way, it doesn't have to be one line, but mine is, it's pretty obvious what I do, right? Creating impactful personal brands for founders. It doesn't get more clear than that. If you're a founder and you want to grow a brand, you know what I do immediately, or at least you know enough to know maybe I should find out a little bit more, right? So when it comes to your own tagline, you want to make sure that you are speaking to whatever that banner speaks to. What do you do? Who do you help? How do you help them? Right? So that's an important element. Um, let's see. In your case, a lot of people do this, and it's okay. I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I'm just saying it's getting a little played out. People are using the word I
Beautifully
help.
a proper t-shirt.
Sure enough. Oh no, I'm sure.
People are saying the word help a lot. I help so and so achieve this particular goal by doing X, right? So uh, I help criminal lawyers in the state of New York get more clients using a three-step system, right? There's specificity there. It speaks to the audience that you're helping, and then it alludes to the fact that you have a system, right? So that's an example of kind of like the language you want to speak. I don't love using the word help only because it's used so much. So you may want to say something like where I use the word creating or um, producing or something like that where it's a more action oriented stance than necessarily helping. But again, helping is not a bad thing. I just want to put that out there. I'm just saying I see it a lot now. But the main point of that tagline is what do you do? Who do you help? How do you help them? Okay. Um, Now, this part actually has two parts, unfortunately, because LinkedIn removed the option to do one of these. So that kind of sucks. But I just want to point it out to anyone that is on this call. If you look at this section right here, this is called a custom link. Okay. If you have a custom link on your profile right now, leave it alone. Don't ever get rid of it because you can't create them anymore on LinkedIn. They stopped it. So you are no longer allowed to do that, unfortunately. I believe you can't even change the link. You can't even edit it. You can't do anything. So if it were me, I would just always alter my landing page if I had to, because this was one of the only things that you could really make custom in your profile. Like I was able to have like a little hand there, capital letters, actual text. What you have to do now is a custom button. You don't have a choice. So if you don't have either of these things, you're going to have to add a custom button. I'll show you what a custom button looks like. I'm going to go to Chelsea's profile. There's a custom button. View my visit my website. Okay. But it doesn't have to say visit my website. You could do book an appointment. There are other options as well. I believe there's one that says subscribe to my newsletter. You can do that too. So the main point of this or the button is that it's your call to action. It is your CTA. The flexibility on the custom link is that you could, mess with the text and do whatever you wanted. Now you're a little bit limited. However, let's talk about the importance of your CTA. A lot of people use funnels. A lot of people are like, go to my landing page and sign up for my newsletter, right? Yes and no. Sometimes that works. Sometimes that's actually dead on wrong. And I'll explain why. Let's say you're a coach and you're doing high ticket offers, right? And you're coaching someone for a few $1,000s a month. What's your goal with that person? Your initial goal. Your initial goal is a call. That's it. If you want to try to put someone into a newsletter and, you know, nurture them for the next 6 months, you have every right to do that, and that's completely fine. But depending on your situation and, the time that you have to really get a client, the type of runway you might have, I'm just talking about the straightest arrow to get to where you want to go. If you're doing anything high ticket, I'd say your best bet is you want to book an appointment. You want to send them somewhere where they can book an appointment. And generally that will be a link to a Calendly. Okay. So let's just use the example of coaching again. If you want to have a one-to-one conversation, there's a couple things you want to do. One, be able to book that call. So you would probably send them to a Calendly or some sort of calendar booking, software or mechanism, right? But the other thing you want to do, and this is really important, is you want to qualify that person. The last thing you want to do is be booking calls, call after call after call, and you're not talking to the people you want to talk to, right? And so what you typically want to do is, and I'm not going to go over the whole thing right now, like screenshot it or anything like that, but I'll give you a quick, for you, what you should be doing. So let's say you're coaching and will qualify someone. You send them to the Calendly, they're about to book the time, and then what they have to do is answer 4 or 5 questions. Calendly enables you to do that. You ask them qualifying questions and you set it so that they have to answer. You really don't need more than like 3 to 5, and I'll give you a template right now in terms of what you need to be asking them. First one is, you know, obviously the name, the email, that kind of thing. But then you want to ask, what's your biggest challenge right now? Something along those lines. How urgent is your issue, right? When do you need this fixed? Um, currently I'm only working with people who X, and this is the investment. Are you willing to make that investment in the next 3 months? 3 months, right? Yes, no, maybe, whatever it is. You don't have to be crazy aggressive or pushy, but the more questions that you have to qualify, the closer you're going to get on those calls to someone who is pre-qualified. So let's look at that funnel again. My funnel is a joke. My funnel is webinar. That's it. Join my webinar, right? And I do everything in here. But if you're doing something that's a bit more high ticket, you clearly want to have a one-to-one conversation with these people. In terms of the actual conversation and sales and all that, that's stuff that I teach outside of here. Um, so you got your funnel. The button would be book an appointment. They book an appointment, that takes them to a Calendly. The Calendly then has a set of 3 to 5 questions that they must answer. Then what's nice is if they're not qualified, you can be super nice about it. Hey, unfortunately, I'm taking people right now who are really only looking to work with me in the next 3 months. Let's stay in touch. And then you can offer them something like for free. By the way, here's my newsletter. Or you could say, by the way, I post on LinkedIn 3 to 5 times a week. Would love for you to check my stuff out. Always try and give something of value. Always, no matter what, whether they are a fit or not. Okay? So that's that first part of the funnel. Now, Let's say someone just decides to scroll and they don't really care about this top part. Well, you got a few other chances to grab their attention. One of those, luckily, LinkedIn is still okay with this featured section, right? I happen to opt for a featured section over services section. If anyone here has a services section and a featured section, I tend to choose one over the other, and I'll tell you why. Because all of a sudden, if you're adding another section, it's just more scrolling. Okay. And so, what's really important about the internet and user behavior is that they don't like doing too much. People don't like going crazy. They don't like doing too much. And I'm going to give you a little trick also on the featured section that you guys should be using as well. So, on your featured section, this is what it is. All it is, it's your CTA, but in a visual format. That's how I want you to think of your featured section. It's another chance for the user to click, book an appointment, view my service, whatever it might be, view my website, whatever you want to send them. So, whatever your custom button is, whatever your CTA is, that's going to be your featured section. Only here you have the opportunity to explain it a little bit more, right? And in a little bit more detail. So, in my case, I had someone build me a nice little thumbnail, which is basically a very similar thing to my banner, right? Build not just your brand, build your business. That's kind of like my little slogan, right? I've got my branding on there, my logo, and what else do I have? A CTA, attend my free webinar with a little arrow that points where, right here. Here also, you have the chance to use any kind of text you want, which is really cool. Book your slot to my free webinar on creating a profile that speaks to your audience. Simple. Now, to create one of these, a featured section, you would add a link depending on what you want to do. Um, so you would add a link. You put in the link, it'll populate automatically. But see right here, you have a chance to put in your own image, which is nice. So my thoughts on that, you should probably have a custom image, just like I do, right? And here's another kicker. Your title is going to be your text. Your title is going to be the whole whatever I put in there, which is like, book a one-to-one free tour of brand built with yours truly. That was my old one, but now it's like book a free webinar, blah blah blah. Now here's the key thing. See where it says description? Leave it blank. Leave description blank. Only focus on the title. Let me explain why. I'm not trying to pick on other creators here, but I'm going to explain exactly why. See how Chelsea did it? These are direct links. If you do this, you go right to her site, right? Whereas I'm going to pick on creator that I know. Nothing personal because I like Erica. But an example is of someone who uses text. See all that text in there? Watch what happens when I click. Uh-oh. Doesn't take you there, does it? It takes you to a pop-up. And the only way I can get on her waiting list or the travel app is by hitting view. So that takes 2 clicks to get there instead of 1. So when you add a description, it takes away your opportunity for them to get onto your site as fast as possible. So remember, when you do a featured section, a couple things you need to be aware of. You're going to add a link. The link is going to auto-populate with its own image, which you can edit. You're then going to put in your own custom image, and you're going to create your own title and leave the description blank. All right, that's your featured section. Let's see. I'm going to discard that. Okay. Now, hey, there's James Duncan. James, you're on this call. You're texting me right now. Oh, that would be fantastic. If you're right, I'm super happy. I was hoping that was a glitch. Do you know if it's back? You can talk. You can unmute. Oh, I think you're still muted.
Yeah, I don't know if it's one of those things where they just moved it and didn't tell anybody, or if they put it back because of Chelsea's post, but
It's back.
it looks like, yeah.
Oh, great. Now we have an extra 3 minutes. Okay. So if it's back, James, I really appreciate that because this was literally 2 days ago or 3 days ago. You know when Chelsea did that. So, oh, that's awesome. Now I don't have to. Okay. Now when choosing between custom button and a custom CTA. Now you guys know where I stand on that. I stand with the custom CTA, the custom link, and I'll tell you why. Because you can put your own text in there and you can put little emojis. So it's pretty badass. So actually, let me see if I don't want to edit anything though. I got to be honest with you. I'm a little worried about that. Yeah, premium custom button. Like if you have this option where you can do a website, you're good to go. James, you're telling me you do right now, like at this particular time? Yeah, just confirm with me that it's that. So let's hope that that's right. And if it is, you're basically doing the same thing as your featured section. You're just adding something custom right here. James is checking for us because I thought it was removed. That's what it, as of 3 days ago, it was removed and you couldn't edit it. There was some wacko error message saying like LinkedIn has discontinued your ability to edit blah 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 blah.
When I go into my profile to try and edit it, it gives me a custom button option, edit custom button. I click edit custom button and I can add a link.
Okay, great. So if it works for you, then again, here's what's nice. You have two choices here. You can do the custom button, which will say either, go to my website, do this, do that, book an appointment, subscribe to a newsletter, or you do custom link. Custom link option, which is basically custom button, but it gives you an opportunity to add a website. So here where it says premium custom button, if you have this stuff below it, that's the custom link and you're golden. All right. So basically you're just putting a link here and then your own text. Here's what sucks about here. 30 characters, that blows. You only have 30 characters. So you really got to kind of draw them in like, hey, look at me. Or, like you don't want to write that, but you might want to write just like book a call, learn how to level up your brand, something that's actionable. Okay. So James, I really appreciate that heads up there because all of us thought that custom link thing was gone. And by the way, anyone who it's not working for, just like you can always reach out to me, DM me, and be like, hey, by the way, it's not working on mine. And in which case, I don't really have an answer for you, but I'll try and find out because I do have a couple of people I know at LinkedIn. So the last thing I want to go over before giving you guys a very brief tutorial on content and engagement is your about section. Okay. So I do this last only because it's like the least actionable and it's the one where you have probably the least opportunity that someone's going to read it. However, the people that do read it care. Just remember that. The people that do read your about section, they care. So given that fact, make it good, right? And here's what an about section should be. This is a very easy way to look at it. An about section is your ultimate LinkedIn post. Your ultimate LinkedIn post to talk about who you are, what you do, who you help, how you help them, right? It's an extension of your banner. It's an extension of all of this. Your featured section, it's basically the creme de la creme, right? Again, it's for the people who really care. So the way I like to do it, I like to tell my own story first and then talk about the people I help and how I help them and all that kind of stuff. So in mine, you always want to start with a good hook, something that always draws people in. Mine was I never wanted a boss. That usually gets people's attention. They'll usually want to read more. So you don't want to say like servicing the IT industry for 25 years. Like that's fine, but it's not. It's not for an about section. You could put that below in your about section, right? But you really want to do something somewhat personal and something that relates to what you'll be talking about. So for me, I gave the whole story of how I didn't want a boss and how I was basically an entrepreneur, which eventually led to coaching, which eventually led to what I do now. It even says, so what do I do now, right? And then what you always want to have at the bottom is something that's very specific about your service. Mine is an actual method that I use to help people. And then you want to have some way for them to contact you. Unfortunately, you are not allowed to hyperlink links in here. So you just have to put them in text and hope that someone cut and pastes, right? So for me, I really have just two things, free newsletter and, this join Brandbelt, which actually, how about that? I have to change this. There we go. So now that's just my regular website and the newsletter is right on top. So I'm always learning too, guys. So that's basically your about section. Outside of that, okay, you're pretty good to go when it comes to profile optimization. The only other stuff that I want to go over and give you just a nice little quick tutorial on this stuff is the other two elements that are really, really important. You could have the best profile in the world. If you don't have good content, good engagement, you're not getting anybody. Sorry, ain't gonna happen. So here's a little quick primer on content. I use a specific formula. Now, you don't have to use it on every single post, but it's something that I came up with. I call it HSSRC. Hook, story, solution, result, CTA. Okay. Something in and around that is effective. And what I mean by that is number one, hook. You want to hook the reader in some way, but you do not want to clickbait them. Excuse me. What that means is you can put something extravagant and crazy, but if you're not tying that to the actual post itself and what you're talking about, then it's just clickbait. So let me give you an example of something pseudo funny that I did once. And this might make people leave the room, but I don't really care. So I had a hook that said, sometimes I pee sitting down. That was my hook. I'm in my 40s. Sometimes I wake up at night and it's pitch black and I'll pee sitting down. It happens. Now, if I just wrote that and then like in the middle of the thing I said, I help grow your brand, like, come on, that sounds ridiculous, right? Obviously. So you always want to do something that I call bring it home. Bring it home means you better have something useful to say that's attached to that hook. Otherwise, again, it's just clickbait and it's not real. So in my case, I actually did an entire analysis of why peeing sitting down helped my productivity. And at that time, I was pushing a productivity course. So it made sense. And I cannot tell you the response I got from every male over 40. It was awesome. Unfortunately, I made it to LinkedIn Lunatics on Reddit, but that's besides the point. Doesn't matter. Um, so one, a hook. And how do you write a good hook? A hook should elicit emotion. A hook should elicit some kind of reaction at an emotional level. So it could be fear, anger, happiness, joy, excitement, all of those kinds of things. You want somebody to feel something when you write a hook. And then the rest of it is your story, your solution, your result, your CTA. What does that mean? The story is the situation that your potential client is in. You're miserable. You're at a job that you've hated for 5 years. You got a boss that sucks. Da 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 da. You really want to get out. Da 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 da. Set them up. You're not making any profits. Your IT department is slow. That this could be an AI post, right? Here's why you need AI, right? Like there's a whole bunch of things you could do, but the bottom line is you want to set it up with a story. Where is that person at now? Then the solution. That's you, your service, whatever you do. And you lead them into that by saying, this could be a case study. You could say, so here's what we did. We came in and we determined that their IT was overstaffed, that it could have been replaced by 3 products. Here's the one we use, right? And as a result, in 6 months, their efficiency improved, their revenues improved, their profits improved, et cetera, et cetera. There's your result. If you're interested in something like this, DM me, right? There's your CTA. CTAs are tough. You can't be too pushy these days. The whole DM one, I barely use it anymore. But you do want to say something like reach out to me or be sure to follow along or just something that nudges that person to continue the relationship with you. Your content's not going to get a client like right off the bat. Can it? Yeah, of course it can. But your content is for letting them in and it's for building a relationship. Your content is an anchor to introductions, to your profile, to all that kind of stuff. So now, how often should you post? I'm giving away too much information here, but how often should you post? 3 to 5 times a week is pretty good. I post every day, but that's me. I have a different account than all of you here. It doesn't act the same. So some people, I would say, if you really want to have a business here and you really want to grow clients, posting once a week is not going to cut it. Posting 3 times a week, that can work. That can absolutely work. But something I really want to stress to everyone here is if anyone's really serious about building a business, then you better treat it like a business. And LinkedIn, make no mistake, can be a business, but you have to be committed to it. That means 15 minutes a day ain't going to cut it. Do you need to spend 5 hours a day on here? No. Do I spend about 3 hours a day on here? Yes. I used to spend closer to 8. All right. That was when it was psychotic and you could comment 700 times and it didn't work in the same way. But today, you put in a good hour, hour and a half, 6 months, you could do pretty well on here. Okay. I'm just trying to be realistic with everyone. Um, so that's my sort of content, uh, map. And then in addition to just, stories about transformation and things like that, yeah, you want people to know who you are. There's a reason it's called personal, right? A personal brand is personal. You do want to share stories about yourself, but if you can somehow share you and how you transform other people all in the same post, that's the big one. That's money, right? And then as far as your actual cadence with posts, what's really awesome is, you know, think of it like a TV show. Mondays are for this, Tuesdays are for this, Wednesdays are for this, right? You could have a transformation story every Wednesday. You could have a sales post every Thursday. You could have a more of a personal anecdote every Friday. Whatever it is, whatever cadence you want to use, and you experiment and you get data and you look at the statistics and you see what resonates with people. And then you realize, hey, if I post a couple of things here and three of them resonate, don't stray from that. Just work off of that subject, and you can keep iterating, iterating, iterating. As far as actual content and all that kind of stuff, that's in my course, that's in my community, all that. I didn't want to get into too much detail, but hopefully that primer helps you guys out. And then the last thing is engagement. All right. Another thing that sucks. You can post all the content in the world, have the nicest profile in the world. If you are not engaging, you're not going to make it on here. If you're just spraying and praying and think, oh, my content rocks, everyone's going to see it and they're going to be my clients, good luck. And you will fail and you will burn out very, very quickly. Engagement is huge on here and it's more important than ever. This is how I like to think of engagement. I wrote something called Commenting is the New Cold Calling. I literally wrote a PDF called that. And I really do believe that. If you are commenting and you are DMing on a consistent basis, I'm not talking about 500 people a day, right? 20, 30, depends, 40, who knows? You can only send 100 outbound comments a day on LinkedIn. They changed that about 2 months ago. So you will actually get a message if you send out more than 100 in one day. I'm talking about outbound, by the way, outbound. If you're sending 100 outbound comments in a day, you'll get a message on 101 that says could not be loaded. It's crazy. So you're actually limited. That's actually a good thing because it means you really need to stick with quality. So when it comes to engagement, there's two things you should be doing. You should be responding to all the comments on your posts, usually that golden hour, as best as you can. So the first hour, you want to respond to everything as well as you can, as quickly as you can, and as much quality as you can. But the other thing is you want to be sending strategic comments out to other profiles. Your next question might be, well, who the hell am I commenting on? Two people, two types of people. One, the kinds of profiles that can help your account grow. So those are usually good users, good creators. Doesn't mean they have to have 1 million followers. People who are active on the platform, who are posting consistently, right? And you want to leave thoughtful comments. You don't want to leave shit like great post, nice speech, whatever the hell you're writing. That's all crap. Leave something good. I think everybody here can pick up on what AI commenting looks like now. It's pretty damn obvious. I'd rather leave a really good one-liner that was funny than something crazy long that was obviously AI that has like 7,000 little emojis and shit that's just so obvious, right? If you're going to use AI, I'm not against AI. I use AI, not really as much for my content, but I'm not against it, but please make it your own, right? Please make it your own. And then the other types of people you're going to want to comment are potential clients, your ICP, ideal client profile. And then you might be asking, well, how the hell do I find those people? Well, I can't go into every single thing on this call, but you can run searches in Sales Navigator. You can run searches in LinkedIn. Let's say your profile is like pharmaceutical reps, right? You can easily type in the title pharmaceutical rep, and you can sort it by location. You don't even have to have Sales Navigator. Sales Navigator is just a little bit easier. And I have tutorials on Sales Nav and all that kind of stuff. So basically, that's it. Now, I'm going to pitch my own product or service right now. So, deal with it. Here we go. If you guys are really serious and you want to learn more of this stuff, I have a few options, but the main one I'm really talking about here is my community. Okay, so we have a community called Brand Built, and in that community, there's over 200 members. We have calls every single week, every Wednesday, and we have training sessions once a month. There's also 2 courses in there and a discussion forum. So you can talk to everybody in the group, some really heavy hitters in there. And basically, it's just a great place to learn and accelerate this a little bit faster. Okay. So if you're looking to grow a business or brand and you can afford the $250 a month, then that's what we basically do. And it's a really, really great group, very close knit. My suggestion would be to do two things. You can either go directly to the website, check out more of it. So I'm going to put it in the chat right here. And you can bet your ass I'm going to be sending you an email about this because why wouldn't I? Um, and then the other thing you can do is if you have questions, this is my email. As you guys know, I'm pretty good at getting back to people. Great question, Josh. Could you share a bit more about the way the group helps one another? So that's a great question and an interesting one. Number one, we obviously help with all of the technical aspects of growing a personal brand, but you'd be surprised just how much of a support group this place can be as well. For entrepreneurs that are lonely, that haven't been in this business long, that really need another ear to listen to, and people that they can communicate with, this is an awesome place for that. Our Wednesday calls can be incredibly good for that. A lot of smart people, a lot of great advice. So that's another way that people always help each other. Another way is we actually do guest speeches, guest presentations. So people in the group are presenting all the time. It's usually we're up to like almost once a week now where someone in the group is presenting on their particular product or service or an area that they can help with. So for example, we have like our resident health insurance guy, Mitch. He's freaking awesome. He's done incredible webinars on health insurance. We have another woman named Phyllis who's like our resident AI expert, and she helps in specifically with AI. Uh, Megan Donnelly, who's our COO, she's our automation queen. She helps out with automation. Her training calls are automation. My training calls are all LinkedIn and branding. Darren, my business partner, all his training calls are on business. He grew his business to a $40 million valuation, sold it for that in 2018. So he knows quite a bit there. We even have Danny Delvecchio's in our community. If you guys know him, the video guy, he does tutorials on video. And so he'll do a webinar once a month. So Josh, I hope that answers a little bit. If you have more questions, just drop them in there and I can answer those as well. And you can also email me. Remember that you can always email me any questions. Again, I didn't want to pitch my product or service too much, but another thing we do offer is like a done for you. So we actually do ghostwriting for the folks that don't necessarily have time. Obviously, those products are a little bit more expensive, but we do have a number of clients in ghostwriting, and we have people where it's like DFY, where we basically take over their entire brand. And we also have our own CRM, which is pretty badass. It's called Digital Magic. So if you're looking to automate, send out messages, voice messages, automation, all that stuff, we have our own CRM. It's really for people who aren't quite at the level of like a Salesforce, right, or a HubSpot. It's definitely for the smaller to medium sized business, and we have a number of our members that are using our CRM as well right now. So if people use both together, there's a discount. But I didn't want to take too much time away from Q&A. What's going to happen after this call is you're going to get this whole recording anyway. So I want to make sure that just in case you forgot anything, you can always come back to this call. It's recorded. I'm going to send you a copy of it. And whatever you decide, if you remember, great. If you just want to stay in touch, great. No big deal. But at this point, what I want to do is open this up to any questions you guys might have. And what you can do is it's pretty simple. Um, on the bottom where it says reactions, there should be a thing that says reactions on your little menu there. Just raise your hand if you could. And anyone who's got any questions, I'm happy to answer. Pete Vomisil, your picture's incredible, by the way. So if anyone has any live questions, go right ahead. I can do this, about 20 minutes. Or just like raise your hand and just like unmute yourself.
Yes, I have
Ricardo, how you doing, man?
yes, good man. How you doing? Thank you for the invitation, by the way. One of the things that you haven't talked about is how are you increasing dramatically growth your followers to interact within your platform? Because I've seen seven different strategies that people are using, but a lot of times they're just paying for all the followers to be in their link direction, but they have no interaction with their webinars.
And this is a pervasive problem on the platform. What you're talking about are pods. And if you guys have heard that word before, there are many groups you can join. They're called accelerators. And by the way, Nothing wrong with these groups. If you want to join them, that's fine. You will grow your account. You will get more followers. You will get more engagement. But typically, I think they're around $5,000. And what happens is you're put into a certain group. You're told what kind of content to create. And it's the kind of stuff that the quote unquote algorithm likes. And you'll grow fast and you'll get a bunch of reposts and all that kind of stuff. But the question is, which everybody always asks, is, am I going to get clients that way? Well, the answer is I'm not going to say no. I'm not going to say no, but I'm going to say this. It's more of a needle in a haystack method of getting clients than it is being very direct with people. So how do you grow your following? Well, you grow your following by posting kick-ass content, having good hooks. Hooks are extremely important, and doing the engagement. You will not grow your account if you are not engaging with people on a daily basis. It will not happen. So typically, if you're doing a good 20, 30, 40 comments every single day, and you're doing this, hitting the connect button, maxing out on those connections. If you have Sales Navigator, you can do 250 connections a week. If you have Premium, you can do 125. I suggest you max out on either. You automatically are getting first connections. And by the way, you don't have to send a custom message. There are statistics that prove this. Sometimes it's even better that you don't. Why? If you have a good profile, someone's either going to decide to accept your request or not. So that combination, Ricardo, of good content, good engagement, so that's building relationships, plus constantly connecting with people, you'll grow your account. Are you going to grow it as much as if you join one of those accelerators? No, you will not. However, the problem is, are you reaching the right people? And that is all I care about in my community, with everyone I've ever worked with. I've known people that have 100,000 followers that don't get any business on here. And I know people that have 5,000 that kill it. All high-end stuff. And there are people that fall in between, somewhere in the middle, right? So I have a ton of followers because I grew my account, back in 2019. I've been doing this all along. But if I had joined any of those things, I'd be at like 600,000 right now, right? So these were all grown organically and through me hitting that connect button myself, all manual. So I hope that helps. Brittany.
Hi, this was
Hey.
amazing. Thank you so much. I'm so glad I was part of this and I met
Welcome.
you. Okay, so quick question is, I'm rebranding again. I know that I am the brand, but now I'm working for multiple other companies. So it's like real estate investments and things like that, plus the loans, but kind of the bridge to get there.
Mhm.
What is now the company I was with prior? I don't feel like they were very reputable, and I'm not going to I wasn't going to take it off. How do I make it look very professional and like flawless to announce that I'm doing something else? Because I have yet to change my LinkedIn profile to announce that I am the founding manager of
Mhm.
this venture.
Yeah.
What is your idea on that?
So what you're really talking about is a rebrand here, but you're also talking about a situation where, and I've seen your account. The only reason I bring this up is because I've seen your account. And so you don't have this like crazy account that's been around for X amount of years and you have tons of followers and like you have this built-in audience. You're really building an audience. So in your case, I would just go for it. Like new banner, new message, new everything. Just do the rebrand. Most people, I always recommend you do it over the course of a couple of months. That's what I did. And so like what I would do is every week or so, I'd throw in a post that had to do with my new theme, right? And I would just kind of start weaning my audience off of the old stuff. And eventually I would just flat out come out with a rebrand, one day. And then I would do one of those new position posts because those have the best reach. One of those things that said like celebrating new position or whatever. You should do that once a year anyway, just to be like, new chief happy officer or whatever the hell, it doesn't matter. But yeah, I would do that. I would definitely just go for it. Do the rebrand and start writing content that has to do with your latest venture, like immediately.
Recommend that I take off the other companies that I've worked for, or do I leave them? What do you think's best? It's kind of like a resume, I feel like.
Oh, you mean in your work experience, like past?
Yeah.
Depends if you think it's relevant. I think work experience is usually always relevant.
Yes.
So, it depends what you're going for. If you're going for your own clients, who cares? If it's like for recruiters' eyes and you don't want to show them like jumping around and all that stuff, then you have to make your own decision there.
it was like 3 months that I have with that old company, and now I'm leaving. But the other company, I mean, I was with for a year, so
Yeah.
I just wanted that was like an okay transition.
I think it's fine.
Yeah.
Especially, and you've already let me know this. You're an independent contractor, so who cares?
Okay.
I think you're good to go.
Great. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Tina Larson, we've definitely gone back and forth many times. How are you?
Many times. Thank
Yeah.
you so much, Nat. I figured
Sure.
I had to finally meet you. So here we are.
Here we are.
So my question is, if you have any tips. So my clients are co-op and condo boards. So these are HOA boards.
Mhm.
They are volunteers. They do not list this on LinkedIn. So they can be attorneys, mortgage brokers, they can be any other profession,
Mhm.
and they don't list it on LinkedIn. Do you have any? We currently get about 80% of our referrals come from LinkedIn. So
Okay.
we feel that we are successful on LinkedIn. But do you have any tips on reaching more of those
Sure.
that
Yeah.
are not so easy to find?
Absolutely. You're actually in a good position. Most people look at it as a position where it's like, oh, it's too general. I don't do this, but it's actually wrong. I think you're in a better position because if you continue to hit on the fact that you're targeting HOA people, that's where the algorithm comes into play. So your content itself should help out with that. Where you don't have much help, which is where it kind of sucks, is it's like if you're just doing cold outreach, that's hard, right? Because you have to like literally determine if they're in that. So you're definitely in an attract kind of position a little bit more than most people. But like, I'll give you a really good example. Like one time I asked somebody a question. I was like, "Do you think dog walkers should be on LinkedIn?" And it was just this random question. Someone's like, "I don't know." And it's like most people would think, "Of course not. It's a professional platform and da 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 da." But how many people have dogs? A lot, right? So like we have someone that works in the food business, and I can't say who it is, but like person's making a name for himself on LinkedIn because they talk about a specific food. Everybody eats food, right? So the reason I bring that up is because you're dealing specifically with HOA, right? So when you're talking about apartments and you're talking about HOA, fees or whatever your topics are, do you know Kevin Brunnock by any chance? He's New York City. Okay,
I do.
Okay, so Kevin's in our community. Kevin's awesome. So you should definitely reach out to him, to talk about the community, cheap plug, but also to just get a sense of, the things that he's learned, what he might be doing. So he's a really good example of someone who's really, really locked into his niche and going after New York City. But if you're going after New York City real estate, who cares if it's attorneys or, it doesn't matter their profession unless you want to market yourself as the real estate, agent for lawyers. You can do that, right? But I don't think what you're doing has anything to do with that. So with you, it's really tackling the content in a very specific way where you're hitting home on some of those keywords, HOA, whatever, co-op, right? Like all those kinds of words, and really hitting home on New York City, I think is another big one for you. So it's a little bit harder to do things like Sales Navigator searches or just plain searches and be able to find your people. But you're obviously doing something right if you're getting a lot of leads that way. So keep pushing that harder. Your content, your profile, take another look at that, make sure that's optimized, and that's where I'd go with that.
Okay. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Julian, thanks for being patient, man.
Absolutely. No, thanks for everything and the whole set of information, which is great. I wanted to have a follow-up question on what you said regarding the connections. So I've been actually very careful with sending out connection requests. First of all, maybe I got this wrong. I always put a note. So
look, there's nothing wrong with it. It's just statistically speaking, you don't need one.
Yeah, and it's good to know that something else actually might work better. The other side of it is I've been very careful who do I send requests to. So I wanted to ask because a colleague of mine, we were kind of starting on the LinkedIn journey together. He got banned, locked 2 times now, I think, or 3. And I don't know exactly how the algorithm does it or why. He grew more than me. He was doing a lot of like invites, connections, and all that. It might be linked to that. I don't know, but that's my question. If I go For example, I entered a group, let's say a community such as yours, shameful plug. By the way, I'm not part of the community, but I'm just kind of so shameless, I meant to say. Anyway, I went into that community. I look at the community members. I send the invite to those community members, and then I'm kind of 90% sure it's going to get accepted, right? Like that I do, and I actually track it, and then I maybe remove the ones that were sent. I did get Sales Navigator recently. Do I want to go and do 250 connections per week requests to, let's say, C-level executives? Because that's what I do.
Yeah.
I do business optimizations and CRM.
Already answered my question. Already answered my question. Yeah. I mean, you already, that's probably where I was going to go, but keep going. Sorry.
No, but that was it. Like
Yeah.
my concern is I'm okay to send the 250 requests. I can use Sales Navigator. I can go and find the people. I can send the connection request. I'm concerned I might get blocked. Do I need to clean up?
You won't get blocked as long as you're not overdoing it. You know, that's what the limit is for. You'll know if you're at a limit. And if you keep abusing that limit, then yes, you'll get blocked. But another thing that's also key is remember to only do requests for people who are active. And you can click on a little button that says posted in the last 30 days. So when you go on Sales Nav, there's a little toggle that says posted in the last 30 days. Make sure you click that. And that's going to reduce the number of people dramatically.
Okay.
Yeah. Obviously,
Got
there's
it.
way
All right.
more. Obviously, there's way more detailed searches you can do on Sales Nav. Not something I'm going to go over here, but yeah, there's a lot more to Sales Nav than just that. But you can definitely just start off with C-suite. You know, search by title, search by seniority, years at the company, all that kind of stuff. Industry. You know, there's a whole bunch of things you can do in Sales Nav. So if you wanted to target.
And it's not strange just sending a connection request without a note, because I don't know them, obviously, right? I just want to connect with them.
Yeah, I hear you, but that's not how I roll. But it's okay. Either way, it doesn't make a difference. And then the real, you know, and again, this is more advanced stuff, not really, but the real stuff is like when they do accept, what do you do? Right? When they do accept that connection request, what do you do? And then you have to come up with specific
Well, I
messages.
post.
You do post, but you also really want to message them in some way, shape, or form that's not very salesy, introductory, and warm. And I use scripts that I created myself for how I talk to people. A lot of people are on this call because of those scripts that I used. Right?
I see.
Remember what I said.
I need to prepare the script if I'm going down this route.
Yeah, and remember what I said at the very beginning of this call, why you're all here, right? And a lot of you are here because of messages that were left and
Okay.
conversations that you had with me. So, okay. So appreciate it. I just want to thank everybody for coming, and shameful plug, join brandbuilt.com. You see it in the chat there. I'm going to send everybody this video through email. If you don't get it, just let me know. Obviously, if you have any questions, you could always DM me on LinkedIn or email me, nat@mybrandbuilt.com. And really appreciate it. Hope you guys have a great rest of your week.
You too. Thank you.
Bye.